Namaskar and welcome to What Does This Data Say? I am Ajay Prakash. The list of failed central government schemes which were launched after Modi ji came to power in 2014 just keeps growing longer. Now, some of these schemes were so close to Modi ji's heart that he took great pains to launch them. Now, the problem with all of us is that we all have a very short term memory. We always remember when the scheme was launched because Modi ji made a big event out of it. But when these schemes stop functioning, we rarely come to know of what is their status today. The only indication, however, does come is when Modi ji and his ministers stop talking about these schemes altogether. One may never forget that evening of November 2016 when Modi ji came on air and those words, Aaj raat 8 baje ke baad. In just one sentence, he pulled out 16,000 crores of cash from the economy and left the people cashless. The cost of that ill conceived scheme is being paid by the nation even today. And then there was that midnight gong in the parliament for rolling out the GST. I don't think there's any country on this planet where a similar event would have happened at midnight for rolling out a simple national tax. Just for that event, the speed at which this tax was implemented led to several problems down the line. What was supposed to be a single national tax today turns out to be we are again having five, six, seven different types of taxes. Now, before I start on the main topic, I just want to inform you that Mr. Modi is supposed to be in Hyderabad on January 19th. Now, elections are due in our state next year, and wherever there is an election, Mr. Modi has to be around. That's a given. However, there has to be some reason for him to be called. So, this time around, he's again coming to flag off one more Vande Bharat Express from Sikandrabad to Vizag. No Vande Bharat Express can run without seeing the green flag from Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi is supposed to start projects worth 7,000 crore in the state of Telangana during his visit here. Now, among the many which have been listed, and I'm going to read this news item from newsair.gov.in, which is a Government of India, All India radio site. It says, besides the Prime Minister, will be dedicating to the nation the academic research and hostel buildings in IIT Hyderabad, sanctioned at a cost of over 2,500 crores. Now, 2,500 crores worth of two buildings, an academic building and a hostel building. It will really be worth to go and visit these places, what kind of buildings are coming up. And just for your information, IIT Hyderabad started operations way back in 2008, almost 15 years ago. And today, Mr. Modi is coming to dedicate to the nation two buildings. In today's episode, I'm going to discuss about the scheme called Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. I'm sure many of you do not recollect about this scheme. Anyway, I'm going to tell you very briefly about this, and in case you need more information, you can visit the website. The Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana was first launched in 2016. The plan was that over a period of 3 years, 5 crore women belonging to the BPL family would be provided an alternative clean cooking fuel. These ladies would normally be using cooking fuel such as cow dung or kerosene or wood, which was posing a serious health hazard to these people. Under this scheme, the government would provide a cash assistance of up to rupees 1600 so that a connection could be given and a gas stove can be given and probably one refill of a cylinder. Also, there was an offer for these people to purchase a hot plate on a EMI basis. The initial target was 5 crore ladies, which later got extended to another 3 crores, so total of 8 crore beneficiaries. So the total amount this government would have spent on this scheme is 12,800 crores over the last 5-6 years, and you can just remember this figure. Now, on the face of it, it looks a very noble scheme and a cause. You want to reduce the health hazards of the very poor families of our country. As with many other schemes of the Modi government, this scheme too was never thought through properly. It failed to meet its objectives and got lost somewhere in time and space. The last time when anyone from the Modi government talked about this was in 2019 when Piyush Goyal hailed the government's Ujjwal Yojana scheme. And today you will never hear about it. Now let's see why this scheme failed. This is a table of the cost of a LPG cylinder from the year 2011 to 2021, the non-subsidized prices which the government pays and the subsidized one which the consumer pays. Note that the subsidy had stopped from May 2020 onward. Now, in 2011, the non-subsidized rate was 710 and the subsidized rate was around 400. Government used to pay 300 rupees per cylinder. In 2013, the subsidy amount came to almost 600 rupees. 2014, it came to around 800 rupees. And in 2016, when the Ujjwala Yojana was announced, at that time, the non-subsidized rate was 554 and the subsidized cylinder, that is what these poor families would have had to pay for the refill, was around 430 rupees. So in 2016, a poor BPL family would have had to pay 432 rupees to get the second cylinder refill and there onward. Now, I would just assume that in 2016, 430 rupees is something which probably these poor people may have afforded to spend every month on clean fuel. But then Mr. Modi knew that he would be bringing in demonetization and he would be reducing or removing the gas subsidy. And that should have been factored in when such a scheme was announced. By May 2020, the price of the cylinder, at that time the subsidy was removed, we were all paying 581 rupees. And thereafter, this has gradually gone on increasing. It reached 800 in January 2021. Steadily, it kept increasing. And today, all of us are paying well above 1000 rupees. In fact, in Hyderabad, it is up more than 1100 rupees. So the issue clearly is the affordability of the refills by the BPL family. Do you really think that today a poor family can spend more than 1000 rupees on a cooking gas cylinder? Just go and check the price of coal or the wood and you can then do the calculations yourself. Now let's go over to part 2 of this episode. I am going to now discuss what was the UPA's approach during Manmohan Singh's time to provide some benefit to the poor families. During the UPA 1 period itself, the government was getting concerned about the rising subsidy bill on the gas or LPG connection. A quick calculation is here just to show you how much the government was spending on the LPG subsidy. In 2013, there were 14 crore LPG consumers. The subsidized retail price of a LPG cylinder at that time was 410 rupees. The cost to the government had ballooned up to 1021 rupees because of the international petroleum prices. Approximately, the subsidy per cylinder was around 600. The monthly subsidy bill was 8,400 crores, and the annual bill for the subsidy was well over 1 lakh crore rupees. And this LPG subsidy bill had built up from the year 2008 onward. So there was a thinking already in the government that what should be done to stop this subsidy, because giving subsidy is never a good economic practice. Now, just to understand the enormous amount of work that was done by Manmohan Singh and his team, I'll take you very quickly through the historical journey of the LPG in our country. This timeline is divided into four phases. Phase one was the early years when the governments were just toying with the idea of having a domestic LPG cylinder. However, the first cylinder was released on 22nd October way back in 1965 by the Indian Oil Company. It was just a token of the progress they had made. And obviously, we don't remember this date because Lal Bahadur Shastri, who was the Prime Minister at that time, did not click a photo of himself giving the cylinder to this beneficiary in Calcutta. Then there was almost a 30-year period from 1970 till 2002, during which the oil companies were nationalized. The emphasis was always to increase the reach, improve the supply chain, and improve the provisioning. The people should have gas cylinders accessible. The costing and pricing mechanism, though, was made, but at that time that was not a worry for the government. Phase 3 from 2002 to 2012 was probably the worst phase in the LPG history, especially for the governments and especially for the UPA government. The increasing subsidy burden and the leakages and inefficiencies started hurting the government. The subsidy bill started hurting the budget, and the country was facing a huge deficit. And since these subsidized cylinders were available in the market, that led to lot of black marketing and cylinder swap, which means your cylinder could possibly end up being given to someone else for a consideration. Now, since the subsidy bill was going up for the government, the oil companies, on their part, started reducing intake of new customers, and that affected the image of the government very badly. If you remember those days, it might take you a year or 2 years or even 3 years to get a new cylinder. So everyone in the government fully believed that the subsidies have to be removed. But Sonia Gandhi was very clear on one thing. Yes, subsidies can be removed, but the poor should not be affected. That is, they should keep getting the subsidized cylinders. By 2008, our banking systems were fully automated and quite robust. Then the Aadhaar project had already been launched. By 2010, the first Aadhaar card was already issued. Now it remained to link the bank accounts with the Aadhaar card and the Aadhaar card with some kind of a payment system so that any kind of subsidy could be transferred directly to the bank without being given to all the people in the system. The government think tank led by Manmohan Singh and having members like Montek Singh Ahluwalia and Chidambaram set out to implement phase 4 of this story. The first thing the government did in the process of reducing subsidies was to cap the number of cylinder consumption per household. If you remember, they started with a figure of 9 cylinders per annum, and because of the hue and cry at that time made by the BJP, it was later changed to 12 cylinders. Beyond 12, one would have to pay the market rate for the cylinder. So this was an attempt to reduce the subsidies and the leakages. Second thing which the government did was they literally forced the oil market companies to improve their act. They cannot have crores of customers and manage them on manual ledgers. They forced them to go use IT, and the change came overnight. Everything became transparent and the cylinders were tracked right up to the delivery. The third best thing ever to happen in this was the direct benefit transfer. The direct benefit transfer, or the DBT as it's known, may look to be very trivial, but it's a revolution for the government. It could now transfer differential subsidies to its citizens for various schemes. The enforcement of Know Your Customer in banks and the Aadhaar card together made it possible. So the key milestones in this journey, some of which I've already discussed. 1965, the first LPG connection, Lal Bahadur Shastri ji was the Prime Minister. From 2008 to 2013, all the good work happened. 29 September 2010, Temli village, Nandarbar district, Maharashtra, the first Aadhaar card was issued. 2013, that's 1st January 2013, direct benefit transfer became operational. In 2014, the baton was handed over to Mr. Modi, and then the only thing left was to ensure that all the people who are going to be beneficiaries of the direct benefit transfer should have bank accounts. And that's how the Jandhan account scheme was launched, and people were asked to enroll themselves. Because if you don't have a bank account, you will not get the subsidy. This method of reimbursing the subsidies for the LPG continued till May 2020, as I just told you. However, this is my very personal opinion that after the 2016 demonetization, our growth rate started to go down. And it became very evident before the corona that our growth was slipping. There was pressure on Mr. Modi to somehow try to bring the country back on track. And one of the things that he did was to remove the subsidy totally on the LPG and probably petroleum as well. Now, this was done by the BJP government without thinking about the poorest of the poor. There was no subsidy. Everyone from Mr. Mukesh Ambani down to the poor rickshawala started paying the same amount for a gas cylinder. What the Congress would have done had it come back to power is now only of academic interest. However, they did have a plan in place to continue the subsidy for the below poverty line people and offset the cost by increasing the price of a cylinder to the people who could afford it. Today, we have about 30 crore LPG consumers, out of which 8 crore are the below poverty line people. Mr. Modi regularly uses direct benefit transfer to transfer amounts to the farmers in the country. Before ending this program, I'll just show you one of his tweets from 2014. In this tweet of April 8, 2014, Narendra Modi ji says, on Aadhaar, neither a team that I met nor the Prime Minister, that's Mr. Manmohan Singh, could answer my questions on the security threat it can pose. There is no vision, only political gimmick. And a few years down the line, Mr. Modi celebrated the issuing of a billion Aadhaar cards, that is 100 crores. And the Minister of Communication, Ravi Shankar Prasad ji, said more than 100 crore residents in India are now registered under the Aadhaar identity. It is an instrument for good governance. Aadhaar is a mode to reach the poor and needy without the middlemen. The realization came too late, and it's too little for the poor of this country. Thank you very much for watching this episode. I'll see you again next week with some other data. Till then, goodbye and namaskar.